Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my awesomely awesome review of The Force Unleashed 2. Alright, enough of that. Anyways, moving on. So, yeah, guys, this is my review of The Force Unleashed 2, and here we go. So, you guys should know the breakdown scenario and how I do this by now. Hopefully you do, unless you haven't seen any of my other reviews, in which case, go check them out. But yeah, so I break the game down into these three big categories, and each one of these categories I break down. Categories are storyline, gameplay mechanics, and graphics. I'm sticking with those percentages for now because those seem to be working out for my preferences at least. Storyline breakdown. I split up into character development, plot, setting and tone, and predictability. Yeah, so character development. I give this game a 6.5. Reason being, it relies primarily on information from the prequel, Star Wars Force Unleashed, which was obviously the first one. That game had a lot better character development than this one. This game, you're kind of just thrown into it all, and the entire time you're not really sure who your character is. You don't know if he's a clone or if he's the real Star Killer. But just additionally, you just never really develop your character throughout the gameplay, so too thoroughly, and so that was a big complaint on my part. Emotions are displayed incredibly bluntly. There were several times where I thought it was better depicted as a adolescent with two giant swords slashing away at somebody and talking rather than a full-grown Jedi. But yeah. But you still understand the character's position, so I give them credit for that. That's why they don't get any lower on the character development. Plot and storyline, it successfully fits between the Star Wars movies. I give it that. It fits rather well, in my opinion. A few characters from the film appear, but way too short. Holy cow! I mean, they had an idea that could have worked out, but like this could have been like the storyline for half the game, and I maybe would have said the storyline's okay. Storyline is way too short. Setting and tone, I do give this game a perfect score because it feels like you're playing a Star Wars game. Excuse me. Sorry guys. So it feels like you're playing a Star Wars game. Music definitely agrees with the settings. The characters' tones relate to events well. There's no real problem, in my opinion, with the setting and tone. Setting is done well for what storyline there is. Tone always agrees. Predictability, I give this game an 8. Because standard stuff that you're doing, you know, your basic attack moves and you're picking up moving stuff to complete the objectives is way too repetitive. There are different types of enemies. I love that. Perhaps a little overdone at different parts in the game, but they introduce different types of enemies that are immune to force moves, which I particularly did not care for at certain points, but that was largely due to my frustration, not because of my not liking the game. It presented a challenge for me, and I liked that. Repetitive enemy movements, that's another complaint I have, but most games seem to have incredibly repetitive enemy movements anyway, so that's a common complaint. So storyline score, they're the percentages. I break it down, and the total for the storyline is a 7.70. Gameplay mechanics, I break down into character movement, combat, and the interaction with the environment. Character movement in this game, I give a 10. I love the movement in this game. Speed is balanced. You move rather quickly, but not too quickly. Not too much faster than a stormtrooper. Force dash. I'm just a standard mechanic, in my opinion, for a Star Wars game like this. You need some sort of force dash. Works well, and it makes sense given that you can use the force. The double jump with the pause in the air. It's an interesting mechanic that I've seen in like The Force Unleashed, the original. I liked it there. I still like it here. I think it fits in well with the game. Combat mechanics. Force moves are powerful, but you're not invincible. I like that because even when you're preparing a force move, you can still get attacked and suddenly your force move will stop. Like anything that requires a charge with your actual force powers can be stopped in midair, and I do like that because it's not like suddenly you're invincible when you're preparing that. Your attacks are limited and repetitive. I don't like the repetitiveness whatsoever. There needs to be more variety in the combat. You have some cool saber moves, but that's about it. Once again, a lot more variety. So much variety needed and not in there that I give this a 7. Interaction with environment, 7.5. There's destructible stuff, I like it, but primarily it's just stuff that like you slash it or you do the force move on it or something and it gets destroyed, but it's destroyed. It's either destroyed or it's not destroyed. It's not like the stuff actually moves around depending on how you slash an object. Change, pick up, and move many items. Yeah, I like that you can move lots of different items in this game. It's interesting. However, the objects that you move, for some reason, I just think they're way too repetitive. They always seem to be the same things. On the ship, it's always the power cores. In the later part of the level, the part that I actually forgot to post the gameplay, I'm sorry about that, guys, but I forgot to record for that half hour. You're throwing around a lot of debris. It's kind of annoying in my opinion, and it took me a while to get used to. Yeah. Alright, force does not dent extra stuff. That's another complaint I have. Like, if I do a fully charged force push into a thin piece of sheet metal, there should at least be a dent there, and there's hardly ever a dent because of that, like in the wall of the game. So it's a very focused gameplay. You don't really get to get too creative outside the bounds of which you're supposed to be going, so I kind of don't like that. Okay, sorry again, guys. I have to blow my nose. Alright, gameplay mechanics overall. I gave you the percentages, the scores. I give gameplay an 8.00 as far as the mechanics go. Yeah. Graphics, I break down into landscape, main characters, additional characters, and storyline items, and combat. Now this is graphics, recall that. So when we got to combat, this is not gameplay mechanics. Landscape. Additional structures are fairly clear and visible. I like that. You can tell that there's distant stuff. Building structures seem to repeat kind of. And honestly, cities feel kind of like a setup. But I couldn't take off more than a point just because, like for example, in the city that you're on, when you escape from Vader and you go looking for the general, I mean, it's just incredible. It feels like you are in this massive area. It doesn't really feel like a city because you don't see any places where people live or anything. Like, it still feels like a setup, like you're supposed to be playing through it, but holy cow, they did a good job of getting the size sense across. Main characters. I give this game a 9. Why? This is graphics, recall. Faces and detail are really good. I like it. Of course, a little more detail could always be added, but that's always the case in life, in video games. Clothes need more detail. I mean, period. Like, I like the feel you have from it. The clothes and colors, the color schemes, and the wrinkle patterns, actually, if you look really closely, I think they fit the characters. The smoother characters seem to be the more common ones, the ones with, like, wrinkles more, like our main character, Starkiller. Seems to have like a little more conflict within them. So I thought that was interesting that they actually paid attention to that. Or it might have been by accident, I don't know, but I think that was done well. Additional characters and storyline items, 7.5. I don't like, there's a big thing I get on with games. There's only one AI design for each type of unit. There's a good amount of detail on it, but there's only one. You need some amount of variety. I believe we are largely past the stage in video game development, where it's just an arcade style and you're hitting lots of enemies that are all twins of one another. I thought we were mature enough to be past that. Anyways, that was me. Only one AI design for each unit. Yeah. Items have detail, small selections. They just need more selection. That's really it. Their detail is really well on these categories, but they really, really need that selection. That's why they get a 7.5. Combat graphics. I give a 9 because your saber swings look impressive. I like them. Your force moves show the force in there moving. Really good effects with that, at least. Movement of impact needs large variety of effects. Yeah, I agree with that. Whenever you hit a unit, it seems to be largely just based on where you hit it. I actually feel, instead of 2 lightsabers, I feel like I'm hitting them with baseball bats. Because if they're in the air and I hit them on the legs, they flip forward. Yeah, and I feel like I just hit them with a baseball bat and not a lightsaber. Their legs should have been cut off. Yeah. But like when you enter Force Fury, things just look sick. They did a really good job on the graphics for that, so I can't dock them more than 1 point on combat graphics. That's it. Yeah. So graphics score, this has the highest category score out of all of them for this game. So they're the scores, they're the percentages, gives you a total of an 8.7. And overall rating of this game, I give it 8.13. Good game in my opinion. For 1 or 2 playthroughs, I actually don't know if this has a multiplayer. But if it did, I do not think I would play it. This is not a game that I would sit down and play for hours on hours on hours if I had already beat it. It's fun. It lasts 1 or 2 playthroughs, but that's about it. How much would I pay for this game? Because I do like the graphics, and I like some of the gameplay mechanics, but not all of them because they get repetitive. I'd say a max of $25. It's just a totally different environment than a lot of other games, so that's why I say $25. Yeah, I think I would pay $25, and I think that is what I paid for it actually. Yeah, I would not have bought this new. Yeah, I would not have paid $60 for this game. If you're pushing it, I might pay $30, but just keep in mind that this is not a game that you're going to play multiple times through and through and through. Graphics are really cool, though. I still say the graphics are cool in this game. Yeah, that's really what I would do with this game. I mean, if you can get it cheap, I think it's a cool game to play occasionally, but you don't want to play this too much. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and this is Tom Tinker signing off for today. Check out the rest of my reviews if you haven't already, and if not, I'll be continuing to make stuff. I'm going to be gone for a couple weeks in the near future, so I'm trying to get a lot of content up before I leave on that trip. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoy and keep looking at my stuff because I've got a lot more coming.